Welcome to Navigating the Aftermath, the podcast where we explore the journey of rebuilding and rediscovery after life storms. Join us as we delve into stories of resilience, triumph, and transformation, offering insights and inspiration to guide you through your own path of healing and growth. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for joining me at this podcast episode today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you. Beautiful sunny day. And
Yes.
I know the topic we're going to talk about, the navigating the aftermath of a separation and going through a divorce, is not a very light topic. And I really appreciate you coming forward and speaking your truth today.
No problem. I appreciate you having me on.
Wonderful. Could you please share a little bit about your journey through the divorce and what led you to the decision to pursue separation?
I told my husband that we were done at the end of June, and it was a long time coming. We had done therapy and he did not do what he should have done. He didn't do any of the work. And back then I didn't understand gaslighting, narcissism, any of that kind of stuff. And the therapist basically kind of said, I can't do anything with this, so we're done here. And so then as time went on, due to a series of events, he stopped working as much as he used to and really wasn't bringing money in and was expecting me to step up. And I was already working a lot of hours. There were no more hours to work. And it just got to the point where I kept going, as they say on a lot of videos, I was silently leaving the marriage and didn't know it, because with all the anger and gaslighting and lack of accountability made me start to despise him more and more and more. And as I watched him do it with the kids, that got me even more mad. And so then there was this big financial thing that was going on. Well, there are a lot of different financial things that were going on. And I ended up, these words came out of my mouth that I hadn't even thought about. And I uncovered a massive lie that he had been holding for 15 months. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I'm like, we're done. I don't, and it was instantaneous, the 180 that he did. And he's like, wait, what, how, what, give me another chance. And I saw him for the first time backpedal. He didn't believe I was going to do it. I had been on the edge for a while, but nothing I said through the whole marriage was ever heard. And he has told multiple people now, when they're like, why are you getting divorced? I have no idea, is his response. And he literally does not understand why I wouldn't put up with it anymore, because when somebody doesn't take accountability for their actions, they don't hear what other people say they need in order to be a partner and be fulfilled. And so he's been out of the house 9 months. And it's been this interesting journey that we can go into in a bit. But needless to say, I've had this beautiful experience that, they always talk about. Don't badmouth him. The kids still need their father and all of this. Well, I haven't had to badmouth him, because when somebody doesn't take accountability and now there's nobody pulling the reins on them being married, or, having to follow the guidelines of being married, he's making so many bad decisions, and it's visible in front of the kids that I don't have to say anything. They're learning who he is. And that's perfect for me, because now I can say with a clear conscience, I'm not telling the kids to not be around him or anything like that. They're choosing to put boundaries in place because they're working with amazing therapists that are helping them realize all the behaviors that were unacceptable in the marriage to them, with a father-child relationship as well. So it's been horrendous, absolutely horrendous, and so freeing. And our house is more peaceful than it ever has been. So it's just this tumultuous thing. And I love that your title is The Aftermath, because aftermath is such a powerful word. And I'm hoping to get to the aftermath eventually, but I'm in the fire of the storm right now. But I would do it all over again, because this has been exactly what needed to happen.
Yes, absolutely. And can you share any insights or advice, and you touched that you would do this over again? And what would you tell somebody who is contemplating a divorce and is feeling scared, feeling worried, what would you say to this person?
Well, for the listeners, I have you coaching me. I separated in like beginning of July, basically. And then I started working with you in about October. So a couple months, had transpired and things were in the ugly of the ugly at that point. And I didn't know who I was dealing with at that point. And you did something that literally has changed the trajectory of my entire life. Is you had me watch a video, you can say what the video was, on YouTube about narcissism. And it was this crazy thing. I finally watched it on a Friday night when the kids were out with friends. And I literally don't think I moved all weekend. I went from YouTube to TikTok, Instagram, and literally just searched the word narcissism. And when I understood these videos were telling what the behaviors were, how they show up, I'm like, this is what my life has been. I just didn't have words for it. And so that single-handedly helped me recognize that the man that I married, and again, if you're not married or with a narcissist, this might not speak to you, but we all have narcissistic tendencies. So what I have now learned is somebody that's a narcissist will go and attach on to somebody that's very outgoing, strong, that is successful, and then they resent you for all those things. But when they meet you, because they go find people that they're going to be basically able to suck the life out of, in a sense, they are really good at listening at that point. And they ask you a lot of questions about what you want for the future and all of this. And then they morph into what you told them they wanted. And I've heard multiple people say, somebody cannot be who they aren't for longer than 90 days. The red flags will pop up. And this is why they say date somebody through all 4 seasons, because it will evolve, right? And so for me, I was young enough that I didn't understand the flags, right? Now, if I was to date again, which right now, I don't need one more person sucking the life out of me. And so I'm like not interested, right? But I would tell people that there are very specific behaviors, and people get so heartbroken about, the future that never will be. The future never was going to be that grandiose thing that you had in your brain anyway. It's what the reality of your marriage was. And so the person that you are divorcing is not the person you married, because if they are a narcissist at whatever level, they became what you told them you wanted. It's not who they really are. And so then they became who they wanted to be, the unaccountable, blame, shame, guilt person, and they make everybody around them miserable to buoy themselves up. And when you're the one experiencing all of that, you question yourself. Do I have too high of expectations? Was I being rude? You question everything you do because they make you feel like you're the bad guy. And so that's why I say the peace that I have now, I don't have that anymore. I don't have to deal with somebody telling me you're overthinking it or you're this or that, because when somebody tells you you're overthinking it or you need to look at it differently, they're invalidating anything you just said. And I couldn't create boundaries because you can't create boundaries with somebody that's not willing to accept them. And so that would be my first piece of advice, is figure out who you're dealing with. And you can go through TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all the resources, and just search the word narcissism, and you'll understand whether or not you're dealing with a full narcissist or somebody that has narcissistic tendencies. Because if you don't know what you're dealing with, you don't know how to fight that battle, and you're really fighting for your future, for your children's future. And if you don't know who your opponent is, and at this point it becomes an opponent on their side, and you probably are still playing nice because you don't realize what you're dealing with. And when you finally understand it, you will find so much freedom in understanding that the sadness of the future, it doesn't exist with that person anyway. So that would be my advice, is really do your research to know what you're dealing with, because there's so many women that always say, I wish I hadn't been so nice in my divorce, because if I had known he was going to X, Y, Z, I would have this. And I'm not saying be a bad guy right out of the gate. Understand what they're going to be willing to do to fight to be right and win, because most men don't want to be proved wrong. And
Yes,
that's, I would
yes.
say.
And also, so you touched on overthinking. I would put overreaction as well. How
Mhm.
somebody can tell us that, oh, you're overreacting. No, I am reacting the way I'm reacting. And when somebody's saying you're oversensitive, overreacting, overthinking, over something, that is just devaluing your experience. And those people don't really want to understand what you're going through. And
Absolutely not.
yeah,
Right.
that is absolutely huge. And you said something that I 100% agree on. We are divorcing different people that we married to.
Mhm.
So what your spouse, like what truth you uncovered about your spouse that shocked you the most?
Oh, it's been never ending. So, like I said, I uncovered a lie, a financial lie that was absolutely insane, and his excuse for it doesn't work, right? Like it just doesn't compute. And ironically, at this point, I'm lucky because my kids are old enough to see right through his bull crap now, right? And when that argument happened, I told him we're done. He had a couple weeks to get out. I sat the kids down. And interestingly enough, I had forgotten a year before, my youngest daughter, who's in junior high, she had said, Mom, why don't you just divorce him? And we went through all of what a divorce would look like and how he'd be living it, probably moving in with his parents. And how if he doesn't listen now and blames me, can you imagine if he's not under the roof? And, all of those kind of things. And so basically, when I uncovered that and kicked him out immediately, because if you go down again, if you're listening to this as far, you probably are learning that you need to go learn about narcissists to make sure that's what you aren't dealing with. Is that very quickly they say on these TikToks and YouTubes that a narcissist looks for supply, somebody to suck the life out of her, get energy from, or feel validated from. And once I kicked him out, immediately he was on his phone all the time, hiding his phone when he'd randomly see the kids or at the sports or whatever. And like my kids came home one night where they were like, he'd shoved his phone under a pillow and was texting and went upstairs and made a phone call, and they're livid and they're like, you guys are still married. I'm like, okay, who cares, right? But we determined through them uncovering things on a laptop or all these things that he within a week was getting nudes from another woman, and it wasn't one, it was multiple. And so the behavior of what I now know is a sex addiction, and he was cited for prostitution and lied about all of this stuff. And then I now know he had affairs at the beginning. And then now I know that due to all of my medical records, I had STDs and didn't know it. I mean, all of these things are insane. And and so the more people I talk to, they're like, oh my gosh, my friend is going through the same thing. They're divorcing a man that they don't even know. He was living this whole other life, having affairs and money and all these things. And you were the one holding down the fort and all that. And so I guess that's what I'd say is, and this may sound weird, and maybe it's because like I say, I was silently quitting the marriage for so long. I didn't realize that. And again, working with you has helped a ton. But when people listen to me now and go, "Gal, like, how do you say prostitution, affairs?" Fine, you say it with such like it is what it is, right? Like, how am I at that point? And it's still ugly, way ugly in this divorce. Like, but it's because when you're married to somebody that tells you you're overthinking, you're wrong, you this, if you would just better, and realize that he never was like, what can I do to lighten your load? What can I do to help you? It was all about him, but you didn't understand it. Now, every time I unwind or learn about another thing that he was doing that I had no idea, it continues to build the mountain of validation for me that I made the right choice, right? And so for me, that's why I say it's the word is freeing, because for me, it just keeps validating. And someone goes, well, you don't seem hurt by the prostitution and the affairs and all that. And I'm like, well, he was never a partner. Now that I've really understood what other people's marriages are like, and I never got that, it's validating. It's not heartbreaking, and the thing is that I guess what I'd say is, as I was, barely breathing through all these things at the beginning and what it was doing to my kids and all of these things, I had, and I hope this, as I say, whether it's you believe in God, the universe, Buddha, whatever, one of my good friends said something so perfectly, because when I was in the trenches of literally going, who is this person? And I'd have to go back through the Ring camera footage. I'd have to go back through the screenshots from the iPad to literally wrap my brain around that this was real, because it doesn't seem real. The friend said, he goes, I keep hearing you say what self-respecting man would do this to his family and his wife? And his answer was, well, he obviously fell away from God. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, when you don't have God in your heart, or believe that there's the world is bigger than you, the universe, and that you are connected to something, and you don't have that, you don't have God, light, any of that in you. So what do you have? Darkness, Satan. And when somebody has Satan driving in the driver's seat of their life, it makes people do things they never would have done. And so really, when you think about it, he's a sad shell of a person who has nothing and has operated that way for so long, he just didn't get caught. And when you think about what Satan, or, the dark underworld is capable of doing, it computes. And again, it validates that I couldn't have made any choices differently, because I could have been the best wife or the worst wife in the world. You don't cheat on somebody within the first couple of years of marriage. You divorce them if you're not happy. And he wasn't capable of that, because at some level, and my friend did have an affair on his wife, and they're back together and they're happily married now. And this was so valid. He goes, when I was in the midst of the affair, I literally said to my wife, it's your fault. You never do your hair anymore. You never get ready. You're always working. You never pay attention to me. And so I had to go elsewhere. And he goes, and in that moment, I believed I was 100% validated for my choices, having an affair on my wife. But again, it's because Satan was this black hole inside of me. I was an unhappy person. And so I couldn't care about anybody else's feelings, because I couldn't even tap into my own feelings. And once I realized that I needed to make a change, and I went back to church, and the pastor, all this stuff, he goes, every single day I read my Bible, I go to church, all these things. And every single day I thank my wife for giving me another chance. And I apologize to her every day for hurting her and the kids at the level that I did. And he goes, and this is where, if you have somebody that goes back after they've had unravel all these things, if he is not, and this is a church word, this is what the guy said, if he is not repentant and begging you daily for forgiveness, because you can forgive, but you can't forget. And it didn't just happen one time or in a 1 week window. It not only the affair happened, but then you're trying to recover from the trauma of all of that. If he doesn't recognize that he's caused immense damage to you and your children, and doing everything in his power to get your forgiveness the rest of his life, he's going to do it again, because he didn't care. And that's the thing about it, is that I'm just grateful that I've had some really great people come into my world and give me really great advice, because in the trauma of it all, I couldn't even wrap my brain around that the man I had been married to for all these years was actually capable of one of the things, if not 10 of the things. And my story's not unique. That's the horrible thing about it. And it just breaks my heart when I hear of somebody uncovering all these things and then they give him another chance. Again, what kind of man can do not one, but a lot, and then actually be repentant? Normally they can't. And the wife just goes back because it's easier to be in that comfortable state of being treated like garbage, because that's all they've known for so long. And so, that's a long answer to saying, there's the lies, the betrayal, all of it. There's not enough hours to go through every single thing that I'm unraveling, and still will unravel. It's I just keep saying, it's insane who he really is. And I always say, I can't make this stuff up.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And being your coach, it's been such an honor. And I would say your secret sauce is that you don't give your power away. You're not get caught up in the victim mentality. You really document everything, and you really see that the truth heals no matter how painful that truth is. When you're ready, when you start really taking it in and you're realizing all of these things, that is such a huge healing secret sauce ingredient. So it's been incredible witnessing how since the day we started and how you're doing now, this is just keeping up with the avalanche of everything. And like I said, it's been such a privilege and honor being on a journey with you.
Well, you were very very you continue to tell me document, and I have documented, but one of my friends was telling me about an app called Otter, like a animal, otter, OTTER. And what it is it's actually meant for people that are writing books, where they talk into it and then it types everything out, and then it will give you the top 3 topics that you talked about. And so she kept joking, "You've got to write a book. This is just insane." I'm like, "It's going to be a 5-part series at this point," because I kept saying, I don't even know what episode of Jerry Springer we're on at this point, because like a year ago we were living in suburbia, driving nice cars, things were kosher, whatever, and then they just are not and so what I found was some people are great at writing, and I've definitely written, but I would turn on the Otter when I'd be driving to go pick up my daughter from a sports lesson or whatever, right? And so I'd have 10 or 15 minutes. And what I found was when I just was rattling, like what was incomprehensible at the time, when you talk to a friend or a coach, they're going to maybe not interrupt you, but give you advice. Where when you're talking to talk, you have to come up with the words. Like when you're like, I found myself saying, I don't know. I don't know. I can't figure this out. But like, ultimately, I guess, and because there was nobody responding back, it allowed me to just, as I say, verbally vomit what was in my brain that wasn't adding up. And it really helped me get to the point that I'd say at the end, I guess I'm trying to think, I'd have to go back and look, but I'd end it with this, like, I guess it is what it is. Like I would get to this end where I'd be like, and there's no more to say about that. Right. Because when you talk it through or, write it out, you get to the point where you're like, all right, I beat this dead horse 5 ways sideways, and I don't know where else to go with it. And then what it does, because it's typing as you're talking, then it goes back and gives you those 3 bullet points, and you're going, oh, that's actually my problem. Because when you can't wrap your brain around it, you don't really know what the problem is, but the Otter AI picks up the thing you keep saying. And that has been very, not that for me, yeah, I mean, I guess I could use it to write a book or for documentation for court or whatever. But really, it has been for me to process the trauma of what my brain can't even process. So that's been my kind of key to success so far, I'd say, because like you say, I don't handle it as a victim. I would say the one thing when it was hitting the fan that I was the victim of, it was because I never had dealt with something this big, where finally one of my friends is like, and I'm a person that handles everything. I run, I've been a manager over big teams, and I get heightened about stuff, but I handle things cool as a cucumber. I'm very methodical. I think things through. People come to me for advice, which is funny because he never would come to me for advice. And my one friend's like, you are barely breathing. You are on overdrive. You need to go get an antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication because you are not functioning. You are not you. Your brain is not shutting down. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. And I'm a person that I always joke, oh, I wish I could not be that person that when they get so stressed, they can't eat. This is the first time that ever happened to me. And so once I got on that, on an anti-anxiety medication, and that was when the trauma trauma was really big, it helped me clear my brain to be able to start navigating what I was really dealing with. But the one thing I realized, because he moved into his parents and my children will not spend the night there, they have issues with his family and the way they've been treated. And ultimately, I realized I'm on all the time because there's not one night they're going to spend with him. So I'm the one that gets to wait up till 12:30 till my teenage son comes home. I'm the one watching his location, making sure if he gets in an accident, right? Like I'm the one that the police is going to come to the door. I am the one that when the kids go to bed, I have to lock up the doors. I have to hope somebody doesn't break in. I never have a break, right? And they're teenagers. It's not like they're toddlers, right? But emotionally, I was like, and I don't drink. I'm not a drinker. I'm not a drug user, nothing like that. But, one of my friends is like, dude, let me give you some Xanax. You got to chill it out here. Like, cause I was just literally practically having a breakdown. And I'm like, and she gave me a 3, I don't know. And they sat there in the little thing of my nightstand. And ultimately I couldn't take them because I didn't know how I was going to respond. And if my kid got in a car accident and I had to go to the hospital and I'd taken a Xanax and it made me loopy, I couldn't even take an anti-anxiety medication for fear that I'd have to go to the hospital and then I'd lose my kid because I took something that helped me just handle the trauma. And that was the one thing that I definitely was really struggling with. But ultimately, eventually, I was able to navigate it going, I get to be the one. I get to be the one that they come home to at night. I get to be the one that the bond we've created because they see his actions. It's not us against him. It's they're working with therapists that are teaching them boundaries and actual correct behaviors of relationships. And that's when I was able to kind of finally twist and say, I get to be the one. And that was the one thing I was the victim of for about 2 months going, I have all the pressure. I'm the one that's having to deal with the carpool now and all the different things. And I'm not going to ask him to help with carpool because he doesn't help with anything. And there's always strings attached. But that's the one thing that I was able to twist in my mind from victim to I get to be the one, not I am the only one.
That was part 1 of Jennifer's story. Tune in for part 2, where we continue to go deep in full transparency and honesty and discover if co-parenting truly exists in divorces like hers. Thank you for joining us on Navigating the Aftermath. Remember, no matter how challenging the journey may seem, you are not alone. Subscribe for more empowering stories, practical wisdom to help you navigate life's twists and turns. Until next time, keep moving forward with courage and conviction.